Hey there. Thank you so much for watching and participating in our previous webinar about PowerPoints and spreadsheets and documents in the well planning process. We had great success with more than 600 views of our 1 hour long webinar. It's out there on LinkedIn. I'll link below so you can watch it. I recommend doing that. For watching and participating in our previous webinar about PowerPoints and spreadsheets and fix this issue. Sorry about that. Yes, sorry about that. We are back. Yes, so we had our previous webinar about PowerPoints and spreadsheets and the well planning process, where we had participants from oil companies talking about their experiences. I think we only scratched the surface, but we got to some important points about how where we want to go as an industry, moving more into data flows. And we have a lot of gaps in the data flow, which we'll get back to in a minute. And in the end of this live session, I'll be pronouncing our next webinar. So please comment below what you would like us to discuss. Please let us know what you're thinking of this live discussion here on LinkedIn. And if you want to be a part of one of our webinars and get to share your ideas and where you want to go or your experiences, we would like to talk to you. So please reach out to us. That said, we also have a lot of exciting speakers planned for our next webinars and maybe some even of the next ones after there as well. So follow us for lots more information about data, about well management and well planning, and how we are working in the drilling industry. The webinar was about this background slide. We didn't get into the details, but we scratched the surface. And what we talked about is how the structure of data which we're using today is creating a lot of documents and spreadsheets and PowerPoints. And these documents are restricting the flow of real data. Real data is needed in all connected applications, like time and cost evaluations, risk evaluations, equipment ordering, to control operations on the rig, contingencies and backup plans. And having high quality data is essential to be able to take the next step in well operations, where you can control the risk and uncertainties of operations. And what this illustration shows is that for every decision gate that we have, and we take this from the CVP, the capital value process in the oil companies, for every decision gate, you are creating decision documents. And everyone knows that the decision document is what we're all working for. So you need to get that decision document approved. So you need to streamline the information, the data that you have gathered, into a format that is readable and understandable for the decision makers who actually sign these documents. And what we see is that a lot of the well planning work, the hours spent in well planning, is actually going into making sure that these documents are clean, understandable, and that they will be accepted by the decision makers. And what happens to get to these documents is a lot of detailed calculations, evaluations, and technology considerations which are done, but that is done in separate workflows, in specialist applications, or in spreadsheets, or in other PowerPoints, or in meetings, but that's not captured in the final document, which is what is surviving as an official decision document. So a lot of data is wasted in the well planning, and we end up in situations where we have to make decisions all the time based on no data. And that's what we're really, really, really good at in our industry, is to make decisions based on no data. There are so many experienced people who are making qualified decisions. But if we want to move along, I believe we need to have better data to be able to document more of what we have actually planned. So that's a little backdrop from the context of spreadsheets and PowerPoints. Let's have a look of what actually was said in the previous webinar. Some catchy music and everything.
My ambition is to move away from documents altogether no plan survives the first gunshot of a battle, right?
So it's about creating optionality so you are able to make much more rational decisions.
And I think this slide, which is actually a background slide for this webinar, illustrates this point very good. I think the way to solve it is to have advanced data management, structuring, organizing, and maintaining the data which is collected or created in the organization.
So you can share your well-design with anyone within the organization, so then you don't need to worry about if that's actually the last version or not.
I think the key is if we have a sort of digital workflow, all those key reporting information are tracked alongside with actual data, so which allow people can not only automate creating those, but also can easily update some gap between the planning phase and the operational phase.
What we're actually trying to encourage people to do, especially on the leadership side, is when we do the reviews, the gate reviews, we actually do them within the software systems themselves, so we keep everything inside it.
All right. About the animations, some cool music fading out. So what we talked about, what everybody is talking about, is data management as the core for what is creating our workflows. Making modern workflows, getting away from the PowerPoints and spreadsheets, and the implementation. Well, that is crucial. Our industry is very well aligned. We've been doing working the same way for 30, 40 years. Most of the software which came out, which we're using, is from the 2000s or even earlier than that. And that's sort of when we cemented our workflows around the data availability. And that has changed the data availability, and the ability to share data and create data has changed significantly with the introduction of cloud computing over the last 5 years have opened for very new ways of working. And our industry haven't really adapted to those yet. We still work in the same old manners. And that is what our next webinar is about. How to work in a more modern context with new workflows, new data, modern data management, and focusing on implementation. What are the restrictions to actually change? I often hear people worry about what's the future? Am I going to keep my job? I don't think that should be a worry for anyone in the oil industry. We are needed to create energy for the world. But I also think that things are changing. If your job is to sign spreadsheets and PowerPoints, you should really focus on building new workflows where the data is flowing without you being the data shifter. You should be the data creator, the clever mind to create value and look at alternative designs, consider new technologies, and implementing changes to how we execute operations. Because that is what is needed more and more. More advanced operations require more advanced insights. And the data capacities we have now enables the transfer of more knowledge from the planning phase to the operations, and also the other way, from operations back to the operator company and service companies who are planning the next well. So our next webinar is, as it says up here, the planning of production and exploration wells, where we look at data and workflows. That's a super catchy title. If you didn't get it, let me try one more time and save it. Planning of production and exploration wells, data and workflows. It's super catchy. You want to be there. And the content, it will be even catchier than the heading. I admit it could be even catchier. I can't think of one right now. But let me know, what would be the catchy phrase or catchy webinar title to attract all the catchy, cool people in the industry? But I think you're there already. So maybe you don't need to be that catchy. I think I'll stop discussing catchy right now. I'll bring up some questions instead that came in And I'll list some examples of what we will be discussing in the next webinar to tease you, hoping that you will show up, and even better, that you will share your questions in the comments below. And we're looking for you who have more questions, or if you have answers to these questions, to participate in our webinars and share how you're working, what your perception of how we're working, and how we can change and what the value of changing will be, to speak to our community of engaged and motivated engineers and managers in the drilling and well industry. So here are some examples. How do you keep track of multiple planned wells? And that's a frequent question, because we're so used to working on one design, which goes into that one report. What happens when you start planning for all the designs and all the eventualities? All the contingencies, they become plans. How is data from well plans available for operations? And we'll get that's sort of the, well, yeah, that repeating, we create data instead of documents. So all the data sets are describing events, geology, pressures, operations, technical evaluations, all the data in one place as a complete data set for multiple scenarios. Can you plan completions? Follow us to learn more about the completion project. That's very exciting. What can we learn from offset wells methodologies when you have thousands and thousands of offset wells instead of the traditional 3-4 that we normally look at? How do you actually extract data from so vast amounts of data? And how does this quality control process develop? Because there are so many good questions that have come in. I'm not trying to answer them now. I'm trying to tease you to come up with your own questions and ask them in the comments below, so that we can bring them into the next webinar. And our next webinar is already launched. You can find it on LinkedIn. It will be a LinkedIn Live event. We have some guests lined up. We haven't published them yet, but we're looking very much forward to do that. So we will have good discussions on how to plan wells and data management. So check that out on LinkedIn. And remember that brilliant people should not be making PowerPoints. So thanks for watching. See you again soon. Take care.